Hello students, we have done Western political thinkers. Now is the turn for studying political ideologies with suffix ism like liberalism, socialism, Gandhism, fascism, Nazism, imperialism, nationalism, casteism, communalism, regionalism, federalism, idealism, realism. There are so many isms in political science. But let me tell you that if we start with the root word ideology, it was first coined by Tracy in 18th century. So if you go by the literal meaning of ideology, then logy means study of and study of ideas. In literal sense, study of ideas. As you know, idea means superior thought, not a simple thought. So study of ideas is not one idea, it's not singular, it's plural. So when we say study of ideas, then it's group of ideas, set of ideas, coherent ideas, directional ideas. In Hindi it is called vichar dhara, ism. So with suffix ism, that is the suffix in ideology. So this is group of ideas. So that group of ideas which are not random or cutting each other, but that group of ideas which are coherent, means reinforcing each other, which are directional, which are organized. So group of ideas, it is in one sense, it is a set of ideas, group of ideas, while also it is to be seen as science of ideas. So the ideology has to be seen in two terms. One as group of ideas, as I explained here, set of ideas, group of ideas, and second, it is to be studied as science of ideas. Science of ideas. So former is value laden, is subjective, while latter is objective, empirical, as science of ideas, systematic ideas, organized ideas. So that will be more organized and systematic. So these are the two the two definitions of ideology. So we further see that ideology, when we see it in political theory also, you have seen both philosophy part and science part. Philosophy part is more dealing with the values, subjectivity, higher ideals, how desirability, ought to be, should be, while science part is more concerned with what is empirical, factual, and the descriptive. Same is the case. Ideology is also to be seen in terms of both as set of ideas or group of ideas. Here closed-minded approach is there, closed-minded approach. While when we see it as a science of ideas, science of ideas, then open-minded, critical examination, open-minded, it involves critical examination, it involves critical examination. Here it is used for mobilizing support, while here it is used to question the authority of the state. So it is the instrument for mobilizing support, and it is demands the obedience to authority, as Hitler used the ideology Nazism. Even communist Russia used the ideology Marxism, communism to command the obedience to authority. Here questioning allows individual questioning authority because it is in scientific domain. It is to question the authority itself, while here it is compliance to the authority. So it is better understood by a very simple example. If you say that God created man in his image or man created God in his image, so the former is in this domain where faith is involved, where obedience is involved, where followership is involved. So the example for it is God created man in his image, while here you will find that man created God in his image. Man means man is the creator. Nothing in science, nothing is accepted as a matter of faith or followership. Everything is subject to critical examination. So man is the creator. Man created God in his image. Man created God in his image. So science of ideas. So in this case, what we see that this is used in political sphere, particularly modern political sphere, because in this sense it is modern phenomenon. Ideology itself, let me tell you, is a modern phenomenon because modern politics is based on mass mobilization. So this is used for organized political action, organized political action, or for mobilizing huge support or for mobilizing mass support. Here it is used by political parties, by leaders. Modern politics is based on mass mobilization, while politics in ancient and medieval period was based on the blood origin, the dynasty, the tradition, while here mass mobilization, because as I said, set of ideas. Some group of people will be more convinced by this idea, some will be by this, some will be by this, some will be by this. So it will be aggregate, sum total of large number of individuals who are supporting certain desirability, certain ought to be, certain ideas, and that sum total become huge support. So it is for organized political action and mass mobilization. Politics in ancient and medieval period were based on sword, blood origin, not based on mass mobilization. As you know, Ashoka was in ancient period. Akbar was in ancient period where they were great because of their sword power or because of their the policy of systematically getting support of the people based on blood origin also. But Gandhi in modern politics is strong not because of sword power or dynasty or lineage, but because of the ideology Gandhism that led to huge support of the people. So when we say ideology, it never dies. With the biological death of Gandhi, Gandhism has not died. With the biological death of Karl Marx, Marxism has not died. So ideology continues as group of ideas, although in the New World Order since 1989-91, there's talk of end of ideology and only one ideology has been left, that is liberal democracy, because ideologies were working in modern societies, class divided society, where there is class regimented society. One ideology mobilize support of one group or one class, another ideology mobilize support of another group. For example, liberalism, capitalism mobilize support of people, king, middle class, businessmen, traders. While Marxist ideology, socialist ideology in 19th century mobilized the support of working class. So this is the difference. Both it has to be seen in both terms, and in modern political sphere it is used both in that terms. So ideology is also, so role of ideology, again you see as set of ideas or group of ideas, set of ideas. Here less critical examination, more faith. Here science of ideas, here more critical examination and not based on faith. So Marxist, neo-Marxist favor this ideology as science of ideas. Marxist or neo-Marxist support it as science of ideas, while as set of ideas it is being used in various time period to mobilize huge support of the people. So as set of ideas for mass mobilization, one role of ideology is mass mobilization, number one. Number two, its role is to keep the group cohesive. Ideological based groups are more cohesive and less defections are witnessed in ideology based group, be it political party or be it in international politics groupings of the nation, where there is ideology like a capitalist first bloc led by America with capitalist ideology will be more cohesive. But in balance of power system 1600 to 1900, shifting sides was easier as there was no ideological commitment. So first rule of ideology is mass mobilization. Second rule is a cementing factor for any group, for group cohesion. People believing in the same ideology, they will have more cemented relationship, they will have more group cohesion, they will more be remain united if their commitment is based on ideology rather than interest, because interest is dynamic. Today it is served in this way, tomorrow it will be served in another way, day after tomorrow it will be serving in another way. So ideology based commitments are more cohesive. You will see that in India most of the political parties except communist parties, they change their ideology or they change their commitments as per the situation. So more defections you will see, but in communist parties you will see less defections, that people going to another party or likes. So for second role is as a group cohesion, cementing force. Ideology based groups are more cohesive. And third role of ideology is legitimization. Legitimization. Every ideology justifies itself. America will justify liberal capitalist ideology as it will claim that it favors individual liberty. We are part of free world because of liberalism, capitalism. Marxism will say no, our ideology is better as we have pro-poor, pro-working class, egalitarianism, and we have more satisfaction in our society. So Indians will support Gandhism, that Gandhian ideology is more moderate, based on non-violence and more humanistic than liberalism, capitalism or Marxism. Even terrorists, they justify their terror acts based on the ideology terrorism. That ideology suggests that existing world order is full of injustice, there is no peaceful non-violent way to get justice, so we are left with no option but to kill the so-called silent and neutral people who are tacitly supporting the existing unjust system. So we will force them to think otherwise, and we will mobilize support for replacing the existing system by alternative system. So terrorism is also an ideology. So it may be a political disease, it may be studied as political disease like fascism, Nazism is also studied, As in biology, we do study about with different kinds of diseases. So in political science also, we do study them certain ideologies as diseases, also non-progressive. So it has set of ideas, three role. First is mass mobilization in modern politics. Second is cementing element. Third is legitimation. The Marxist, they see ideas as science of ideas, as Marxism is also called scientific socialism, because everywhere there is ideas based on observation, repetition, experimentation, not based on faith, not based on religion, not based on God. Even morality is based on practical morality, scientific morality, rather than religion based morality, which is non verifiable. So in this way it is seen as science of ideas. And the in politics, both ruling class and opposition use false consciousness. As you see that a neo-Marxist, Mannheim, Karl Mannheim, in 1929 he wrote the book The Sociology of Knowledge. Sociology of knowledge means social basis of knowledge. According to Karl Mannheim, in political sphere, false consciousness is generated by both ruling class as well as opposition. They don't talk about their realities, but they do talk about the desirability in different way. So ruling class used ideology, means false consciousness in political sphere, according to Karl Mannheim, is manifested in two sense. One as ideology that is used by ruling class to maintain a status quo. Status quo. Rulers will claim that our ideology is good, it is progressive, our existing system is good, and there are talk of higher desirabilities based on the existing ideology. So that is also false. And second, opposition will show more dreams to the people. Utopia means imagination, imaginary land, imaginary. So opposition will use utopia or change. They will say, no, this existing system is bad, existing ruling class are not capable to deliver, we will deliver. So opposition, whenever you are in a position in politics, you can claim or you can give so many promises. Whether they are fulfilled or not, that is different thing. But you have to make more and more promises to mobilize support of the people. So in political sphere, both ruling class and opposition use false consciousness. Here, ruling class use it as an ideology to justify, to promote the existing regime, while here it is for opposition, change. So this is what the false consciousness manifests itself into two ways in political sphere. So in this sphere also, we see ideology, as Hitler, Mussolini used fascism, Nazism to justify their rule, to continue their rule, to justify the regime, to justify their system. So in this way, it is manifested in two sense. Marxism came in reaction to liberalism, capitalism. So that was also seen in terms of utopia, that how they say change. The existing system, liberalism, capitalism is bad, it should be replaced by another ideology. Now, we have seen what is ideology. In nutshell, ideology to be seen both as group of ideas as well as science of ideas. Ideology is in group of ideas for mass mobilization, as modern politics is based on mass mobilization. And in modern political sphere, it is clash of ideologies. Power is depending upon your ideological power, not muscle power or blood origin power or sword power or dynasty power. Power is more depending upon ideologies. So you can say Gandhi is stronger than Khalli, although in lighter vein. So muscle power does not reflect the power in modern politics. Modern politics, if you have huge support of the people, you are powerful. If your support is ideology based, it is durable. Because personal charisma based support may be dynamic and changeable, but ideology based support is galvanized on a huge scale. So, in all political ideologies are modern, and the first and foremost modern political ideology was liberalism capitalism, which was accompanied with the modernization. Means, as you know, 14th century Renaissance, 15th century Reformation, 16th and 17th century scientific inventions, 18th century age of enlightenment or reason, all this modernization, 19th century rationality, scientific inventions, all this indicate modernization. So first modern ideology is liberalism capitalism, and liberalism capitalism as an ideology emerged along with modernization. So you can see that liberalism capitalism liberalism is political version, while its economic counterpart is capitalism. So it is together said liberalism capitalism. That was starting from 14th century onwards, after dark age of 500 to 1200 AD, feudal age. 500 to 1200 AD was the dark age of Europe, feudal age of Europe, characterized by decentralization, superstition, Roman Catholic Church, less human things, more extra-worldly affairs, and lack of progress, lack of long distance trade, lack of trading capitalism, and large number of feudal intermediaries. But from 14th century, modern means of communication, long distance trade, political unification, emergence of large nation state, then overseas trade, trading capitalism was the first stage of liberalism capitalism. You will find that capitalism has the root word capital. Capital means not ordinary money, that accumulated money which is subject to investment. Capital is not ordinary money and accumulated money. It is subject to investment, and capital investment leads to growth, that is more production. In simple GDP growth, in simple language, is more production, more consumption, more purchasing power, more employment, more investments. Simple language. Although in technical language you might be knowing the definition of GDP, gross domestic product, the monetary value of goods and services produced in a given financial year, is called within the domestic boundary of the country or within a country by both nationals and non-nationals, is called GDP. So that is technical definition. But capitalism leads to capital accumulation, it favors capital accumulation, it favors growth. And the root word of liberalism is liberal. Liberal. It is used in two senses. First, for individual liberty. Individual liberty. Liberalism capitalism will start with individualism. Individual is rational, and every individual must be allowed to pursue his rationally calculated self-interest, atomistic view of society. So it favors individual liberty. And second, Spanish political party in 17th century Spanish political party in 17th century which for the first time advocated for constitutional government, that is limited government, that is rule of law rather than arbitrariness of the rulers. So liberal is used in two sense, first for individual freedom and second for Spanish political party. It was the name of a Spanish political party in 17th century which advocated for constitutional government. So this is how liberalism, capitalism, the first modern political ideology, first, all ideologies are modern, but first modern political ideology is liberalism, capitalism, and it is responsible for growth. It is responsible for raising the living standard of the people in Western Europe where modernization took place. So it is the first modern political ideology, and as you know, capital, even today, capitalism manifests in three forms. First, trading capitalism or mercantilism. Trading capitalism, either you can generate capital only by three ways, either by trade. Trade means taking the products from surplus area, going to deficit area and earning the margin or profit. So trading capitalism or mercantilism, East India Company was also a trading company. So that trading capitalism continued till Industrial Revolution. Then liberalism capitalism had second phase, industrial capitalism, since 1750 onwards. Here, rather than traders, industrialists go for mass production, huge production, mechanized production, bulk of production, quantity of production, value-added production, manufacturing, and then even if profit margin is less, volume is so much huge that overall profit is huge. So you generate capital either by trade or by industrial activity or by financial activity, financial capitalism. This is the ultimate stage of capitalism. Like money begets money. Like most important financial work is giving loan, earning interest. That is financial capitalism. Banks perform financial function. They receive deposits and give lesser interest to the depositors. But when it gives loan, then it gives loan at higher interest rate. So this is how financial capitalism works. International sphere also. After Western countries succeeded in trading capitalism and industrial capitalism, then the huge capital that they accumulated, they invested in the areas where there was huge potential. So financial capitalism. So capitalism had three forms, whether it's trading capitalism, industrial capitalism, or financial capitalism. Ultimately, it favors capital accumulation, capital formation, capital investment, growth, and higher standard of living. Now, this is the introductory part. We see liberalism, capitalism historically. Liberalism, capitalism historically phase wise manifested, if you see in historical context, from the perspective of Western European countries where modernization started, where first there was trading capitalism, then there was industrial capitalism, then there was financial capitalism. However, it was not so in Japan. In Japan, after 1871, the trading capitalism, the industrial capitalism, the financial capitalism, they were all going hand in hand. Very fast. Similarly, liberalism, capitalism, what they followed in West, that became imperialism. As Lenin said, imperialism was the highest stage of capitalism. So capitalism became imperialism for Western countries, and for beneficiary for them, but for colonies like India, we were at loss. It led to colonialism. So, if we see historical phase of this liberalism capitalism, then it is having three historical phase. First is called classical liberalism. Classical liberalism, the first stage of liberalism, is also called negative liberalism. I remind you, negative or positive in political studies does not mean bad or good. Negative means non-interventionist state, positive means enabling state. So negative liberalism is the first stage. This stage was there from 1400 AD, this was dominant, till 1850 AD. But you know that the second phase lead to welfarism or welfare state or positive or enabling role of the state. So this phase was called positive liberalism. Sometimes it is called modern liberalism. Although liberalism itself is a modern phenomenon, but sometimes this is second phase of liberalism is called positive liberalism or modern liberalism. In some books it will be modern liberalism. This phase led to course correction in liberalism, welfare state. That was from 1850 to 1950 AD in Western Europe. Again, after 1950, there was no need for minimum need approach in Western world. So again, they refocused on individual liberty and they refocused on excellence, and they opposed welfarism of the state. For them, progressive taxation became the bonded labor and social justice became the mirage. So neoliberalism or libertarian, neoliberalism, or also called libertarianism. This was from 1950 onwards. Most of the capitalist countries follow dominantly this. We also partly follow this since 1991, LPG, liberalization, privatization, globalization, Washington Consensus, Structural Adjustment Program, Rao Manmohan model, reforms, governance, because World Bank has defined following neoliberal principles is governance. So we have to discuss all those things. So you see that these are the historical phases. Within classical liberalism, there will be individualism as well as utilitarianism, that we will discuss. Within positive liberalism, we will see communitarianism. Within neoliberalism, we will see libertarianism. So strands of liberalism, capitalism are also in terms of it starts with individualism, then utilitarianism within this phase. So individualism plus utilitarianism is part of this, communitarianism is part of this, and libertarianism is part of this. This is what the introduction. Now we will go detail into it. I have just discussed, let me revisit that what is ideology, how it is group of ideas, how it is science of ideas, how in political sphere it is manifested both in terms of status quo by ruling class or change by the opposition. First modern political ideology is liberalism capitalism. So this system came along with modernization from 14th century onwards. Modernization led to emergence of liberalism capitalism, prosperity, and it has the three modes of liberalism capitalism, that is trading capitalism, industrial capitalism, and financial capitalism. Now we will discuss one by one. Overall framework, I hope you might have studied, because first you'd see macro level, then you go into micro level detailings, then it will be easier. then only you will be able to comprehend it. Otherwise, if you are not seeing the macro level picture, you will not be able to have perspective study or comparative study or contrast, or there is a fear of intermingling the things, apprehension of intermingling of things, which is dangerous in exam. Anyway, so first we will start with this phase, classical liberalism. The first phase of liberalism capitalism is classical liberalism. Classical, as you know, classical music, classical dance, classical games. First phase, formative phase, classical liberalism. Also called negative liberalism. Negative liberalism. The time period was from 1400 AD to 1850, dominant in Western world. So, classical phase starts with individualism. First phase or first element or first step is individualism in classical liberalism or classical capitalism. Individualism keeps the individual at the center. Individual is rational and individuals must be allowed to pursue his rationally calculated self-interest. And since it is rational, he must have freedom. If given freedom, individual will have initiative, innovation, invention, voyages, risk-taking capacity, entrepreneurship that will lead to progress of the society. So, for individualist, society is what? Sum total of rational individuals. Atomistic view of society. Sum total of rational individuals who will pursue his rationally calculated self-interest. Sum total of rational individuals. So, atomistic view of society means atomistic view of society, that is, society is consisting of rational individuals. Society is consisting of sum total of individuals. So, there is nothing like common interest, but sum total of rational individuals' interest is social interest for them. So, they highly focus on individualism, as you see that with the modernization, the focus was on individual freedom, the focus was on humanism, focus was on scientific approach. Individual had immense potential. This was in contrast with the medieval period. In medieval period, there was no humanism. At the center of a scheme of things, it was God, not man. And there were inferiority complex among individuals in medieval period, feudal period. But here, if initiative, voyages, long distance trade, risk taking capacity, discoveries, invention, initiative, entrepreneurship has to take place, then individual must be given enough freedom. As you know, the root word of liberalism is liberal, which means individual freedom. And why individual freedom? Because individual has immense potential, because individual is rational, and it is no business of a state to define what is good and what is bad for individual. It is also called negative liberalism because it favors minimal state, non-interventionist state. This also is minimal state, non-interventionist state. It's no business of a state to define what is good, what is bad, what is moral, what is good, what is bad, what is moral, what is immoral. Individual is the best judge in itself. So, in liberalism, capitalism, in you say classical liberalism, or also called negative liberalism. This we are discussing. Try to understand how in Western Europe in early modern period, how there was political unification, emergence of large nation state, long distance trade, then overseas trade and East India Company, and how capitalism benefited them, and how there was standard of living improvised there, material conditions improvised there, and prosperity was there because of liberalism, capitalism, and it was supported by king, middle class traders and people, while opposed by feudal lords and church, but they could not stop the process of modernization, the process of advent of liberalism, capitalism. So this phase, the propounders of liberalism, capitalism in economic sphere, Adam Smith. I hope you might have heard the name, Englishman. He wrote the book in 1776, Wealth of Nations. Wealth of Nations. So how wealth of nations would be created? It will be through liberalism, capitalism. He talked about laissez-faire individualism. Laissez-faire individualism. Laissez-faire means leave us alone. Leave us alone. And focus on individualism. So, leave us alone. Leaving individual from whom? From the state. Because for classical liberalism, state is a necessary evil. Why necessary? Because without a state, who will maintain law and order, defense, security? But why it is evil? Because state is too powerful. It may endanger individual liberty. So, it is necessary evil. State, because no political theory will be complete without discussing the role of a state. So, role of a state is central. Here, negative liberalism means minimal state, non-interventionist state, and you can contrast it with the organic thinkers like Plato, Aristotle. For Plato, Aristotle, state is central and state is having perfect reasoning, and state is all encompassing the welfare of all, and state is central to their scheme of things. But here, state is considered to be necessary evil. Adam Smith says that production, distribution and price determination to be guided by market forces of demand and supply and not by the state. What he says? Production. First, second, distribution. Third, consumption. Fourth, price determination, and price determination to be guided by means market economy. They favor market economy, to be guided by market forces of demand and supply, not by the state. Market forces of demand and supply, and not by the state. So Adam Smith talked about invincible hand. Invisible hand, that automatic adjustments, no need for a state to interfere. Non-interventionist state. State is necessary evil. State is too powerful. It may threaten individual liberty. It may suppress its innovation. It may suppress its best manifestation of individualism. So, state is necessary evil according to the classical liberals, be it Adam Smith, Ricardo, Malthus, Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau, or Shakespeare, Milton, Darwin, or Herbert Spencer. All are coming in this phase. You see how. All this was the phase of European modernization. This was the phase of European capitalism, This was the phase of liberalism capitalism. This was the phase where trading capitalism and industrial capitalism were successful in raising the living standard of the people. This was the stage which was setting the base for further financial capitalism. People developed full faith in capitalism because it led to their prosperous living standard. So Adam Smith talked about laissez-faire individualism, market forces of demand and supply, non-interventionist state. So Adam Smith always claimed that this is the best system. This will be a system of prosperity where there could not be any crisis and there could never be any crisis. Although it's a different fact that his anticipation proved wrong in 1929 with great economic depression in capitalist world. But this is what Adam Smith, you have already seen. Adam Smith favored liberalism, capitalism, and also Ricardo favor minimum wages to workers for sake of capital formation. Factor incomes like land, labor, capital, raw material, machines, they're called factor incomes, or they are the factors for generating income. They means they are essential for production. So Ricardo says there is nothing unique in labor. Labor is just like a factor income, a factor of production, just like capital, just like raw material. There is nothing unique in that. So Ricardo says that labor is one of the factor income. Labor is one of the factor income. Like land. So Ricardo favored minimum wages to workers for sake of capital formation. Minimum wages to workers for sake of capital formation. Although in country like India, it will be appearing a bit surprising that you are talking about minimum wages for workers. Socialism talks about more egalitarian society and equitable distribution of wealth and all that. Liberalism, capitalism in its classical phase favored minimum wages to workers, and quite surprisingly, Ricardo favored, and all these, Adam Smith, Ricardo, Malthus, they he gave theory of rent. Theory of rent. What is rent? Rent is based on superior, for in agriculture for example, superior quality of land. If the two quantity of land are same, 1 acre, 1 acre. If the cost or the investment in both are same, both were same machines, same amount of labor is employed, but one which having higher fertility will have more produce than that with lower fertility. So the higher fertility land, the difference between the production of higher fertility land and lower fertility land is called rent, according to Ricardo. This is what rent theory of Ricardo means. If quantity of land is same, amount of labor employed is same, machines employed is same, but the production is different, their monetary value is different because of quality of land. That is what rent. Similarly to business, where the same number of people are employed, same capital is invested, same machinery, same products are kept, but one land which is at prime location and one land or one shop which is not at prime location. So there will be difference in profit. That difference in profit is called rent according to Ricardo. Malthus also says labor is one of the factor production. He also favored minimal wages. He also claimed that even the population control would be done by the nature, not by the state. If there is excessive population increase, there will be more famine, there will be more civil war, there will be more self-regulations. So all they favor minimal state, non-interventionist state. They all favor that the capital formation, minimum wages, and they all favor economic insecurity, not security, economic insecurity for laborers, insecurity for laborers. Because if laborers would have economic security or social security or insurance, they will not be inclined to work hard. Since they have economic insecurity, so they will work hard, and then only there will be growth. So they favor market economy, capitalist market economy. They favor non-interventionist state. They they did not favor any kind of state intervention in favor of poor. They favor survival of the fittest. They claim state as necessary evil, and they favor economic inequality, not equality. Economic inequality, because economic equality will promote parasitism, and economic inequality, they promote incentive system, and they favor the institution of private property. Private property is one of the incentive for person to work hard. If everybody is economically equal, no person will have incentive to work hard for excellence, for initiative, for going out of way, for more efforts, for more initiative, for more risk-taking capacity. So all individuals are rational, but in capabilities, in qualities, in virtues, they are not equal. So there must be space for incentive system. Most of the means of production should be owned by private household or private individuals, and not by the state. State should not intervene, or state should not tax the rich and give subsidy to the poor. No. So what they favor capital formation. All these things are for sake of capital formation, whether it's Adam Smith, whether it's Ricardo, whether it's Malthus, all they favor liberalism, capitalism, all they favor that starts with individualism. And in this category itself, you will have already studied Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau. They also believed in, if we can recall, liberalism, capitalism, individualism, mechanistic theory of a state. You can recall that, contractual basis of a state. So Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau, they are all belonging to one category, social contract individualism. So they also favored the individualism, which is the first step of liberalism, capitalism. Although liberalism, capitalism assume different forms and manifestations with the passage of time, but the first step or centrality of individualism, there is centrality of individualism in the scheme of liberalism, capitalism. So they all favor what? Social contract individualism. For them, state is machine, means, not the end. Machine may be more powerful than individual, but machine is the means. Who is the end? Individual is the end. Individual is the end. So state should be minimal. State does not represent will of the people. State is a machine. State is created by social contract. Rational individuals through their contract have created state. So state is not natural. State is artificial. State is not natural. It is artificial. State is man-made. State is just the means. State is necessary evil. Necessary but evil. State should be minimal. Rationality is the attribute of man, not the state. This is the statement of Locke. If you can recall, Locke is called father of classical liberalism. Why? Because it was Locke for the first time who favored constitutional government. constitutional government, where government has to abide by the constitution, by the supreme law, and this is limited government. There cannot be arbitrariness on the part of rulers or those who are running the government or those who are part of the government. Government means group of persons. They are not infallible like God. So there is nothing like that a state represents superior will or even will of people. Because state is just machine. How a state machine can represent the will of the people? And you have also seen that how Hobbes was also considered by Weber as one of the greatest English individualists, although his individualism was through absolutism, but ultimately it was individualism. Locke is called father of classical liberalism because he for the first time favored limited government, government as a trustee of LLP, life, liberty and property. So they talk about natural laws, natural rights, state of nature. All this nature is highlighted to downplay the state. Even in the literature of Shakespeare and Milton, nature is glorified, nature is highlighted. So nature is glorified by liberalist capitalists to downplay the role of a state. State should be minimal. Natural rights are not state given rights. They are existing from the nature. They are prior to the state. And they are inherent with the individual. So whether it's Shakespeare, whether it's Milton in English literature, whether it's Darwin, if you see survival of the fittest, theory of natural selection, what he gives? Theory of natural selection. Natural selection, survival of the fittest, survival of the fittest means state should not come to rescue the unfit people or unfit individuals. Nature itself will choose. Those who will be fit will be surviving. So ultimately, this is against interventionist state. This is in favor of the natural things. Why this talk about natural laws? They talk about natural rights. They are not given by the state. They are prior to the state. So nature is glorified for keeping the role of a state minimal, to build or to downplay the role of a state. Means they don't say stateless society, because without a state, who will maintain law and order, defense and security? But they don't consider the state as interventionist, or state will not play in moral, material, personality development of man. Man is rational. Man will calculate according to his rationally calculated self-interest. The state needs not to play interventionist role or positive role or enabling role. State needs not to play this role. Then only individual entrepreneurship will come out. Then only initiative will come out, voyages, discoveries, inventions, and this raising of living standard that will come. So ultimately they highlighted nature. Even you see sociologist Herbert Spencer, social Darwinism. Herbert Spencer talks about social Darwinism. Means in society, social equilibrium would be automatically attained. No need for state to intervene and maintain equilibrium. If there are conflicts of interest and ideas, let it be. For the time being, it will be continuing, and there will be self-regulation, regulation from within. No need for a state to regulate or intervene or control. So they are totally against state ownership of means of production, or state command and control economy, or 5-year plan, or nothing like that. For them, equality is secondary. Primary is liberty. Individual freedom is liberty, and equality is secondary. In fact, economic inequality is required. In fact, economic inequality is must. So all belong to the same category, be it Adam Smith, Ricardo Malthus in economic sphere, be it Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau in political sphere, be it Shakespeare or Milton in English literature, be it Charles Darwin in biology, be it Herbert Spencer in sociology. All they are belonging to the same category. They all support liberalism, capitalism, and they all support prosperity. And in the first phase of liberalism, capitalism is individualism. So liberalism, capitalism in modern period starts with individualism, but it further manifests in various forms. So liberalism, capitalism starts with individualism, and another important thing is that tolerance is the most important value for liberalism, capitalism. Tolerance means every individual is unique, every individual is rational, so have tolerance. This will further promote the development of liberal democracy later. Because in other system, feudal system, there was intolerance. You cannot say against church, pope, feudal lords. You cannot talk about rights. And here tolerance will lead to diversity of opinion. Tolerance will lead to further in next stage, democracy. And liberalism, capitalism, breaking of medieval tradition or old tradition for paving the way for prosperity. Breaking of conservative traditions for paving the way for prosperity. So be it tolerance or breaking of traditions, or be it individualism, or be it non-interventionist state, all these are meant for sake of raising the living standard of the people. So it was successful in delivering that. This is the reason why Western capitalist countries, along with modernization, along with liberalism, capitalism, along with trading capitalism, later industrial capitalism, later financial capitalism, they prospered a lot. They become powerful. The standard of living was raised, and all thanks to the capital formation, capital accumulation, investment, GDP growth. All this was responsible for this growth. So first phase, classical phase, liberalism has two strands. First is individualism. I have talked about laissez-faire. I have talked about social contract individualism, and I have talked also about the private property, economic inequality, minimum wages to workers, incentive system, state as necessary evil. So first step of liberalism, capitalism is individualism, of course, but within the classical phase, that is 1400 to 1850. Within the classical phase, there is utilitarianism, which is part of this. Utilitarianism. You can recall Bentham. What is utility? Felicus calculus, hedonistic calculus. Utility is happiness minus sorrow. What is happiness? Sum total of pleasure minus sorrow, and sorrow is sum total of pains. So 14 kinds of pleasure and 12 kinds of pains. Every individual, utilitarian theory developed by Bentham, although his seeds were laid by Locke himself, but Bentham, James Mill, they fully established utilitarian theory. So every individual is rational. Every individual will take rational action to maximize happiness and minimize sorrow to serve the utility. So Bentham statement is that greatest happiness of greatest number. Here also non-interventionist state. Greatest happiness of greatest number. Best government is one which governs the least. This is the Bentham statement, means non-interventionist state here also, like individualism, but you will see the difference. Best government is one which governs the least. Bentham talked about efficient law administration, efficient application of law, and he favored rule of law, equality before law, and no discrimination, no whether positive, negative, nothing by the state. Means state is best government is one which governs the least, means it will go for less regulations. So you will find that both are part of liberalism, capitalism, but there is a difference. Bentham rejected the theory of natural rights. He favored the theory of legal rights, state given rights. He says that all theories of natural rights are imaginary, utopian, fig of imagination. So don't talk about natural rights. So in this way, there is a difference between individualism and utilitarianism. But basically, they are all part of classical liberalism, capitalism. We have already discussed that how Bentham talked about efficient law administration, how Bentham talked about legal theory of rights, legal rights, not natural rights. Whether natural rights here or legal rights here. In both cases, state has to be minimal. State has to be non-interventionist. Focus is on individual rationality. Focus is on individual initiative. Focus is on individual freedom in a different way. So this is utilitarian theory. You can recall, although seeds of utilitarian theory was sowed by Locke through his pleasure pain theory, but it was systematically established by Bentham and James Mill. So they are all belong to the classical phase of liberalism, negative phase of liberalism. So we have seen the strands as well. We have seen the historical time period also. We have seen the thinkers within the ideology, because ideology is not created by one thinker. Even in Marxism, thoughts of Karl Marx is at the core, but Lenin, Mao, the neo-Marxist, relative autonomy theory, Gramsci, others like Althusser, structuralist, so others are there also. So within Gandhism also, there is core thought of Gandhi, but it was further supplemented by Vinoba Bhave, S.N. Agrawal, J.P. Lohia, and others followers of Gandhi. So here also it is the same, that the liberalism, capitalism, within the ideology of it, the various ideas of various thinkers are involved. Once you have studied the thinkers part, now it is easier, because already we have studied referred Bentham when we discussed J.S. Mill. Already we have studied Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau. So it is very easy to understand now. And if you fix the time period, if you fix the context, if you fix the thinkers within that category, if you fix the strands, then the things can be easily drawn. So this is what classical phase of liberalism, capitalism, which led to immense prosperity in Western European countries. However, in 19th century, or you can say 1850 to 1950, there were certain limitations of liberalism, capitalism which came into surface. Particularly after industrial capitalism, there was huge inequality in the society. Capitalists became super rich, workers became poor. There was challenge by socialist Marxist ideology. Liberalism, capitalism was challenged that this is against the working class, this is anti-poor, this is pro-rich, this is pro-capitalist ideology. So there was to be course correction within liberalism, capitalism. So that course correction came through positive liberalism. Positive, negative, I repeat, I remind that in political studies, negative means non-interventionist state, because in political state is central. Like fundamental rights of part 3 are negative because they are primarily ensured by non-intervention of the state. But DPSP is positive, as these community rights in part 4 are primarily enabled by the state. So it is all state, non-interventionist state or interventionist state. Positive liberalism, or to be more popularly known as welfare state, was the course correction in liberalism, capitalism. Course correction. Had this course correction would not have been done, then it would have collapsed. And Great Economic Depression in 1929 in capitalist countries brought the challenges, brought the limitations of this, and liberalism, capitalism was flexible enough, because flexibility, tolerance, adaptation are the inherent elements of liberalism, capitalism. So it is basically liberalism, capitalism basically wanted to maintain capitalist system, but with course correction to deal with the challenges of socialism, Marxism, to rescue capitalist system from periodic doom, because in capitalism you will see share market boom and doom, and whenever there is doom, there is challenge to capitalism, be it 1929 or be it 2007-8 onwards. Whenever it will face, it will not be able to deliver, then it will be challenged by socialism, Marxism. Then it will have to go for its course correction. It will have to go for rescuing itself. So this phase was 1850 to 1950. You know who is the father of positive liberalism? We have already studied J.S. Mill of 19th century. J.S. Mill, then T.H. Green. J.S. Mill is father of positive liberalism. T.H. Green, who was the father of positive liberty, concept of positive liberty. Then Keynes, then Lasky. All these thinkers will come. Then communitarians will also come in this category, because first phase classical liberalism we have seen, individualism and that of utilitarianism. So why J.S. Mill is called father of positive liberalism? Because he claimed that he rejected mechanistic theory of a state. Both J.S. Mill and T.H. Green, what they are part of positive liberalism. This says that both are common on this, that state represents will of the people. It's not machine. Will of people. Since the state represents will of the people, so it will have enabling role, interventionist role. State will play the role of positive role of capacity development. Capacity development of the individuals. You can recall Hobbes in classical phase. Before this, Hobbes says that capacity and liberty are two different things. State cannot help in capacity development or ensure liberty. And liberty is ensured only by non-intervention of the state. But T.H. Green says no. In fact, human consciousness entails freedom, and freedom demands rights, and state guarantees those rights through capacity development. So rights, state, capacity building of the role of the state, enabling role of the state is must for individual freedom. This is quite different from the classicals. Capacity development, and state is will of the people. So state will play positive role. J.S. Mill says state will play a role in moral, material and personality development of man. State will also impart political education. So they rejected mechanistic theory of a state. They favored course correction by the state. After all, if there is depression, if there is recession, if there is slowdown in capitalist world, who will take corrective measure? Who will come into the picture? The private sector itself, which is facing the problem, or the state? State will have to come into the picture. The state will have to to rectify this problem. Because in capitalism, there is one inherent problem: excessive capital accumulation in few hands. If there is excessive capital accumulation in few hands, then there will be no demand of the masses, workers. There will be no demand, then there will be no industrial incentive for industrial production. Excessive capital accumulation in few hands will not lead to investment, will reduce the entrepreneurship, will lock the capital, will lead to unemployment, will lead to lack of demand, will lead to lack of purchasing power of the people. It will lead to recession or depression or even collapse. So if capitalist system has to be saved from this collapse, because in 1929 great economic depression with Wall Street share market of America crashed, there was challenge to capitalism. There was need of course correction thanks to Keynes. Adam Smith never anticipated any crisis in capitalist system, but in 1929 the great economic depression in capitalist world was the reality, and Keynes, the great economist, gave the rescue plan, rescue, relief, reforms, and based on his theory of welfare state, based on his theory of intervention state, Franklin Delano Roosevelt started New Deal 1, 1932 and New Deal 2, 1936 to save capitalism from the onslaught of socialism, to save capitalism from its own weaknesses, to save capitalism from collapse. So basically, positive liberalism, or also sometimes called modern liberalism, is a course of course correction to rescue this liberalism capitalist system itself. So be it J.S. Mill, be it T.H. Green, be it Keynes, great economist, or be it Lasky, who gave functional theory of rights, that the state is judged by the right it maintains, and favor admixture of liberalism and socialism, liberal socialism, or within this there will be focus on communitarian. Communitarian will focus more on duty also rather than rights, and they will say it's not only good which is important, but right is important. In this category, Rawls will also come. Rawls' theory of justice you will later study in detail. Rawls says right is more important than good. Right is more important than good. They talk about situated self, not isolated individual. They talked about that good is common, good is shared, means collectivity they talked about. So this phase is basically accommodating certain good things of socialism by maintaining basically capitalist system. So sometimes it is called liberalism socialism, or sometimes composite, as Lasky favor both liberalism socialism along with pluralism also. So this says that the good thing is to be discovered than chosen. Individual chooses and pursue his rationally calculated self-interest, but communitarians believes that discovery of good, and good is shared, good is common. Community has to be highlighted, but not to the extent of socialism, because basically this is course correction in capitalism. Try to understand this. So what are the course correction? In positive liberalism, first was J.S. Mill, of course. positive liberalism or welfare state. (1850), and this notion of welfarism and positive liberalism became more dominant and got currency after economic depression 1929. So here there will be talk about that will talk about social security, just different from social security for workers, insurance for workers, security for workers, insurance, economic security. Because in wake of depression, banks were bleeding, their NPAs were increasing. So recapitalization of banks by state, capitalization of banks. They favor progressive taxation to tax the rich and to give subsidy to the poor, to increase their purchasing power, to stimulate the demand of industrial products, to sustain capitalism. This course correction is for sustaining capitalist system. So progressive taxation that they favored. They favored more wages for workers. More wages for workers. Keynes also favored deficit financing, more printing of extra currency notes. Because if there was recession, depression in capitalist world, both fiscal measures and monetary measures had to be taken. Monetary measures were taken to reduce bank rate, CRR, SLR, to pump more liquidity in economy, because liquidity or money or cash is correlated with the blood. Depression means there is lack of low blood pressure. So more liquidity has to be pumped through central banks to stimulate the demand. Although it may lead to some demand pull inflation, but the certain amount of inflation is must for stimulating the demand and reviving the economy. Lorenz curve, that unemployment can be addressed by increasing inflation, by pumping liquidity. So Keynes favored all these things: deficit financing, pumping of more liquidity, relief, rescue, rehabilitation, reforms, all these, recapitalization of banks, more wages. Keynes' very famous dictum is fill the well, dig the well, fill the well. Dig the well, and fill the well. Means government should give more wages to workers to dig a well and to fill the well. Means net work done is zero from physics point of view, but from economic points of view, for digging the well you give more wages to workers, so more money in their hand will lead to more purchasing power, will lead to more demand, will revive the capitalist economy. And fill the well, again you give more wages to workers. From physics point of view, net work done is zero, but from economic point of view, it was to revive the economy. So Keynes says that if savings are equal to investment, all savings must be channelized into investment, and demand is equal to supply, then there will be full employment cycle. Demand is equal to supply, full employment cycle. Employment cycle. So Keynes was a great economist who helped capitalist world to rescue from the depression, because initially it was slowdown, means negative growth of GDP for few months. But if we continue for more than 2 quarters of the economy, that is more than 6 months, it is recession. If it continues for more than that and a year, then depression with structural weaknesses, and if corrective measures will not be taken, it will lead to collapse. So Great Economic Depression legitimized Marxism, because during that 1929 depression, socialist Russia was not ill affected by that. Their 5-year plan was succeeding. So if capitalism has to be saved, then corrective measures were required. More money will have to be given to workers. So more Keynes favored that public investment. Public means government, public administration, public sector, public investment, public policy, public debt, where public means government. So in simple language, more public or government expenditure on public works. More wages, more money in the hands of the people, because of numerically superior commoners, people, workers, common people, if they lack purchasing power, then there will be no demand for industrial products. Then there will be no incentive for production, there will be no new investment, there will be no new employment, there will be no new increase in wages. So some inflation is necessary, which is necessary for stimulating growth. So this is what we see, whether it's we have seen whether it's J.S. Mill. J.S. Mill we have already studied in detail, that how he favored that interventionist role of the state way back in 19th century itself, because it was 19th century that evils of capitalism came into the picture. Great economic divide, the inequality, and the socialist challenge, the Chartist movement. So even J.S. Mill, in latter part of his life and at old age, had socialist leanings, favored trade unionism and more sympathy for workers. So that process started in young age, although he was hardcore think tank of capitalism and imperialism and justifying imperialism. But J.S. Mill also favored positive role of a state. I have already discussed that how the state will play positive role. T.H. Green also. He says that state is guarantor of rights, not originator of it. There is moral basis of origin of the rights, and he said state to play the role in capacity building. Capacity building means human consciousness entails rights, and rights demand state, and state guarantees rights through its enabling role, through its capacity building role. So they are all interrelated. In contrast to Hobbes, Hobbes says that the right and capacity are two different things. He gave example that a patient on a bed lacks capacity to run or walk rather than liberty to walk. But external impediment like walls for the liquid within are restrictions against liberty. So he distinguished between capacity and liberty, but he says no, capacity building will help in increasing the liberty of the person. So some kind of recognition is required for those rights, and there is social recognition, mutual recognition, moral basis of rights, state to play an interventionist role. So he is also called father of positive liberty. Positive liberty, because liberty is one which is ensured by interventionist role of the state through its capacity building role. So be it J.S. Mill, be it T.H. Green, be it Keynes, be it Rawls, communitarians, all they are part of welfare theory of a state, that the state is not to confine itself to only law and order, defense, security, but it will have to play interventionist role as a welfare institution, reflecting the will of the people to revive capitalism, to rescue capitalism from the economic depression, to prove Marxism, socialism wrong. This was the course correction. But ultimately, this phase will also be transient, and the third phase would be 1950 onwards, that is neoliberal phase, neoliberalism or libertarianism, in which various new thinkers will come, like Hayek, who is the father, Nozick, Isaiah Berlin, Milton Friedman, Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher, George W. Bush. So all these concepts need more time for elaboration. So today, in today's class, we have seen the first phase, classical liberalism, then modern liberalism or welfare state. Then in next class, we will see libertarianism 1950 onwards. So I hope you have studied the classical liberal phase and the modern welfare state both. In next class, we will discuss libertarian approach and their thinkers, their time, their notions, and how they are not replica of classic individual laissez-faire, and they will have certain differences, and how welfarism would be opposed in this phase, and how this is to be followed by World Bank as part of good governance. These need more elaboration in next class. So we have studied two phases of liberalism capitalism in today's class. So that's it for today. Thank you.